James Umla speaking Canadian right there.
That was April 6, 1909, and we're here to reclaim that in 100 years later. And so it's really a very special moment. You know, exact North Pole, lie or not, it was historical, it was eventful, and it was very important in the global scene, and we're here to reproduce that 100 years later. So it's a very special moment. We welcome you here for that. Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege to work with, rub shoulders with some of the great explorers and adventurers in the world, and from many countries. And here tonight, we're with one of the greatest explorers of modern day times as our host. And we're a very small group. We're in a really special place on the Fram. We've been welcomed by Charlotte and Anders in a really special way. And we've learned about the older time Norwegians who really wrote the first chapters of polar history. And this boat, the Fram that we stand upon right now, was the vessel that took the explorers Fridtjof Nansen, Roald Amundsen, Otto Sverdrup into the polar seas, both south and north. And they created much of the earliest chapters of exploration that we've heard about tonight and we've begun to understand, and that will lay the foundation for our journey to the top of the world. Tonight we're hosted by my friend and colleague, Borge Ousland, who has, like his ancestor before him, Nansen, Amundsen, Sverdrup, has gone where few others have dared to go. Many have gone to the pole for 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, have gone unsupported. Borge, where others went unsupported, he went to the pole. When many went supported, he went to the pole unsupported. He went by himself. When others hadn't crossed the ice caps of the world, he did it. When others had gone as he did, followed behind him, unsupported or even by themselves, Borge, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, decided to go in the polar night. And before, if you don't know, the sun rises over the Arctic Circle. It's dark more or less 6 months and light 6 months. Borge says, I'm going to do this when it's dark and get to the North Pole where no one else has done that. And by and large, with a colleague, he succeeded doing this. A couple of years ago, he said, oh, the ghost of Nansen. He says, you know, Nansen, who we read about on the Fram on this very boat, you know, tried to go farthest north. A full 16 years before Robert Edwin Peary arrived at the pole. 1893, and Borge says, we're gonna try to recreate some of that journey. He got off his boat, he tried to get to the pole, he came back to Franz Josef Land, and then came home to Norway. Borge tried to, by and large, recreated that story from the North Pole. I was there when you left from the North Pole, and off they skied to Franz Josef Land. We're going to hear about that tonight. And he was finally picked up by a friend in a sloop. Came home to Norway, I think to Tromsø. And Borge wasn't done. He bicycled home to Oslo. I welcome our friend Borge. Thank you.
Also as an introduction to what you guys are going to meet, I'm going to tell some cold stories. Since we are on this great ship, Fram, I'd like to start with just briefly with the old explorers, because we all get inspired by good old Sir Edmund Hillary, which I was fortunate enough to meet on this expedition. So if anyone needs a signed copy of this, I have a few examples left. And it's almost Christmas.
We're going to go see Santa.
Thanks, Borge. I just have to say that for a guy that's got a little experience on the ice as well myself over a few different weeks over almost 20 years, these pictures, as brutal as they might look, I don't think you can even imagine just how brutal it is. I mean, you hear Borge tell about it, and you see the pictures, and you think, well, he just kind of pushed through it, and it's all but unbelievable what they did. And in particular, I think the winter expedition you did with Mike Horn. And I know Mike Horn a little bit, and I've spent a little bit of time with him as well. And it's sort of probably a close race for toughest guy in the world between Borge and Mike, because he had the wrong mid sponsor, but he's one tough son of a gun. And I remember following this expedition on the web or somewhere, and I think he was pretty close to at his end. I mean, when you were doing the double antibiotics, I mean, it was pretty serious, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really.
Yeah.
How's his nose?
And let me tell you about that. I met Mike at the Longyear Airport about 8 days after that, and his nose looked like, this is good news for you guys, his nose looked like as good as new.
Yeah, it's not too
As
bad.
far as noses go.
As far as noses go. He's Afrikaan, so that's one thing, but that heals sort of quickly.
Well, you saw the picture I showed how I looked when I did the first solo trip. I got all blistered up, but the skin in the face heals up really good. So what you have to take care of is hands and feet. The skin in the face is made of something special, I think.
I had seen this picture on the web, I think, something near the end. And when I met him at the Longyear Airport, April 3 or 4, something like that. And I was like shocked. I took a picture with him, and it was almost like a miraculous healing.
How are his hands?
Like, for example, hey,
How are his hands
Well, he's lost
I didn't
the
look at his
tip
hands.
of his thumbs. Yeah,
from that?
cut off the tip of his thumbs, but not all of it. It's a little bit shorter than normal.
just like the skis.
Oh.
And that's a takeaway for us here. Even going for 1 or 2 days, it's a dangerous place, and this is what it's all about. Is trying to keep those things. But thank you, Borge. That's unbelievable pictures. I'm glad you. Thank you.